Hello again, and welcome to the second installment of the Metric Minute, brought to you by Vault Performance. I'm Kareem Derkawi, and in this episode we'll discuss braking impulse, a key component of the eccentric phase. Simply put, it represents how much eccentric work is done from the instant a person starts applying the brakes to the lowest point of their squat, as seen in the photo to the left. Impulse can be thought of as the area under the curve, or in other words, the square footage of work completed. Braking impulse tells us two very important factors about the eccentric phase. The first is how much force is generated leading up to the isometric point. A larger braking impulse will increase the force at the isometric point, therefore giving a better start for the concentric phase. Power production and jump performance are directly correlated to concentric impulse, but we'll discuss that in a future episode. The second point to make about braking impulse is related to asymmetry analysis. By examining this aspect, we can see which side does more work to decelerate the body during preparation for a jump. This clearly has huge implications in injury risk reduction and throughout the rehab process. Landing phase results should also be compared with similarities to this kind of metric. The take-home message is that braking impulse sets the stage for the concentric phase and can give a great idea of loading preference asymmetry. Force decks can also make relative comparisons based on body weight, so we can compare between athletes, position groups, or before and after training and rehab interventions. For more information on this and other force plate testing concepts, please feel free to reach out to us at vol.com, the email listed, or any social media platform. Thank you.
The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some awesome practitioners who are always trying to evolve and continue to grow professionally throughout their career. The problem with many of us, though, is finding a new outlet, a new way, and a new perspective on the questions that we may have, whether it be programming, whether it be situational with dealing with coaches, or whether it be career advice. Because all too often what happens is we get stuck in with the same group of friends and the same group of colleagues that we reach out to for advice repeatedly over and over again. But what we should really be looking for is different perspectives, different people who have been through different situations who can help us make better decisions both for ourselves and our athletes. And one awesome place to start with that is the forums in the Strength Coach Network. In the forums in the Strength Coach Network, you'll be able to reach out and get feedback, input, and advice from coaches from all over the world. From everything from career advice to training modalities to programming, there's people there just for the same reason as you are, to try to get better, to learn, to share information, and to grow the field of strength and conditioning. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, that's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, to dive into all that great content today and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network. Hey, what's happening, everybody? DeMayo coming at you with this week's edition of My Thoughts Monday. I think this week's little rant monologue is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a little bit more of a question about some concerns that I'm having right now. And this is something that I really need to get off my chest and I need to talk about. And there are some things that we need to address. I think a lot of this is going to revolve around the fact that September is Mental Health Month, and there are some things in this vocation in our small little corner of sport that we need to talk about, we need to figure out, and we need to start moving forward with. I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing right now that I'm going to get into today stem from the fact that there is a lot of fear in what we do. There's a lot of strength coaches, people that work in the performance realm, whether it be even sports medicine staffs for that matter, that don't feel comfortable with their work situation, that don't feel as though there is security in their position, and feel as though that at any moment it could all be taken away from them. And that's why we start to see things like we're starting to see right now. So I say that to ask this question. What are we doing? What are we as an overall field when we talk about do no harm, when we talk about nobody knows how much you know until you know how much you care? What are we doing when there are staffs out there that are allegedly taking close contacts for COVID or taking kids who have tested positive and don't have symptoms and are training them in off-site areas. What are we doing when there are staffs that are allegedly taking close contacts that are in quarantine and running them while they sit in their car? What are we doing? We want to have respect. We want people to believe in what we do. We want to have a seat at the table, and we want to act like that. We want to say that we're here for the betterment of the athletes that we get to work with, and we want to tell young people who could be asymptomatic for 14 days before things pop up and could have this virus, that because they're a close contact, I'm going to go sit in a car and watch you run in a parking lot. What are we doing? And then you don't understand why there's people who complain about how our safety is not being accounted for. How when there are people breaking rules, there are no repercussions. And that we are being put in a situation where we may not feel safe. We are going to question that when we have people acting in this manner. What are we doing? How do people think that these actions are okay? How, when we sit here and we look at all of these different protocols that we've been involved in working on and we've been involved in putting together, how are we the ones that are now looking for the ways to toe the line or push it forward or step over it a little bit or backdoor things so we can do things the way we want? What are we doing? How? How is that okay? How, when we sit here and we look at everything that's going on right now with the state of sport as it is today, how do we think that these actions are okay? And then how do we expect to be taken more seriously when we have been working so hard to get a seat at this table, and now we get a seat at the table, and then we're trying to go around everything that we've been working for? What are we doing? And then how, when we have people acting like this, can people who are doing things the right way try to stand up for what's best for the athletes that they get to work with? Try to stand up and hold teams and groups and people accountable to the rules and parameters that have been set when they see that all these other people are not taking these things seriously? How are we able to function like this? How are people able to move forward and to expand what our reach is when all we're doing is breaking all of these things that we've put together? I don't understand this. Yes, this time, as I've said on a multitude of these monologues, is exceptionally unique. Yes, as I've said on a multitude of these monologues, that we have to be flexible and able to adapt and move forward. But adapt and move forward does not mean that we try to break the rules that have been set up for us, or change the policies that have been set up for us, or run away from our responsibilities to do what's best for the health and well-being of the young people that we get to work with in order for them to get a conditioning session in. Newsflash, 90% of fall sports ain't playing. So what's the rush? Why are we sitting here battling for that? Why? So that we feel like we're doing something? If we are that concerned about our job security, then we need to be better. Period. Do you know how we start to build things more at a greater level and expand? Prove that we can do the right thing. Show that we're going to take care of these kids. Show that no matter what, we're going to stand for what's right. And if you start to feel nervous and you start to feel worried and you start to feel as though your job may be in jeopardy, then you should be documenting everything from day one. But you should not be putting yourself in a situation where you are putting these young people in a spot that could jeopardize themselves. Because at the end of the day, when you're putting them in these situations that could jeopardize them, then how can we have any sort of a statement when we are being put in situations that could jeopardize our health and well-being too? And not just our health and well-being, but that coaches who have families, their wives or husbands, their children, or their parents or grandparents. Seeing and hearing people being put in these situations is not okay. And we need to start doing what's right. We want to be taken seriously. We want a seat at the table. We want to be known for doing things the right way and making sure that we do what's best for the athletes that we get to work with. Then we have to do what's best for the athletes that we get to work with. And for those of y'all putting up the good fight and trying to stand up for what's best for the kids, keep on keeping on. I see you and I'm with you. But for those that are willing to push the envelope and fight to break these rules and stretch these boundaries, I implore you to please take a step back and look at what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, pushing these kids through this situation can only lead to bad things. Sorry for the downer. I usually try to keep these positive, but right now there's not a lot to be positive about when I see some of this stuff. But as always, truly appreciate everything y'all do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We'll be back next week with hopefully a little more cheerful My Thoughts Monday. I'll see you then.